Then we have schizophrenia, which is the most scary because of the physical manifestation of the behavior and the danger involved in it. But then there is psychosis, there is eating disorder. So I've tried to break schizophrenia into smaller portions. You can see that the main causes of it, when it starts, those are the things that you first notice: lack of motivation, disorganized sleep pattern, poor hygiene, poor personal care, becoming withdrawn or isolated from family and friends, then showing little or no emotions, mood swings, and extreme belief at times. Can you go back to the previous slide, please? Yeah. So sometimes schizophrenia is referred to as psychosis. Sorry, the one before that one. Oh, okay, no. Let's go back to psychosis then. Yeah. So we class the symptoms as positive and negative. These are the positive symptoms. Hallucination. That is, there are three types of it: the command, the olfactory, and the visual. Command is when they hear a voice telling them to do something, and it's not always something that is good. I don't know what happened to the story of the woman that got killed in Gotham, but it points to some type of command hallucination, where the voice tells them, your mom is the problem you have in this world. If you don't get rid of her, you're in trouble. Some people are lucky they can talk back to the voices and say, I can't do that. That's my mom. But we don't know the story behind it. So command hallucination. While I was growing up, I have somebody in my extended family who woke up his wife. He woke the wife up around 12 a.m. and said, they've asked me to use this cutlass to cut you into pieces, and he started macheting the woman. So everybody woke up, and the woman was lucky that he didn't kill her. And he recovered, and then later, that is what actually led to his death because of the command hallucination. He went to one of the rich men in Ibadan, went around 5 a.m., ran into one of the wife's room, and somebody was shouting thief. Before you know it, the jungle justice in Africa. A tire was put on his neck, and he was born. But it was when I studied mental health that I know that is what was happening then. The olfactory, unless you experience it. I once had a patient that once he wakes up, you come to the nursing office and say, this building is going to blow up. Gas is smelling everywhere. Then he will take off all his shirt and jacket and cover his nose with it. He's the only one that can smell it. No other person can. Then visual is when people see things that others cannot see. And that is when you see some people talking to the wall because they can see something that everybody around them cannot see. And then we have delusions, where people create alternative realities and believe things that are not true. I once have a friend, and I told him you need to seek help. He came into our church. We were doing the Christmas fair here, and he said, you see all these, our calculators, the CE behind it means CIA. They are using it to monitor all your life. Can you give them to me so that I go and throw them into the skip? So then he started making some delusional statements. I said, you need to seek help. He didn't until he was picked up by the police on the road because he was not obeying the traffic light and he was driving on bus lane. So the police has to use our 3 vehicles to stop him. So then we have what we call grandiosity. That is where I once had a patient. He's very tall. And whenever he wakes up and we are talking, how are you feeling? He said, the only thing I'm angry with you people about is you not taking me to Buckingham Palace to see my brother. He's from Pakistan. He said, who is your brother? I said, Prince Philip. I was born after Prince Philip was born. Can you see how tall I am? I said, yes, I can. He said, yes, I was born after Prince Philip, and they took me to Pakistan. So I want you people to try and introduce me to Prince Philip. So that is what we call grandiosity. I have a patient who changed her name to York because she believes she's married to Prince Andrew. So she called herself something York. And anytime we are having interactions with her, she said, I'm going to phone Buckingham Palace and report all of you. And she will do. And then we get a phone call from Buckingham Palace. Can't you people take that phone off that woman? She's disturbing us. So To her, she's married to somebody in the royal family. So that is what we call grandiosity, also in psychosis. But of recent, among our youths, the most common is what we call the drug-induced type. Drug-induced psychosis. We used to discuss it in our team meetings that in the next 5 years or 10 years, there won't be any form of psychosis apart from drug-induced. And I think that's a subject for another time because it's a massive subject. And we have so many drugs now that even the equipment we have in the NHS cannot test for all of them. Like what we call spice. There are about 250 types of spice. So for a machine to be programmed to discover that, it's going to be difficult. And we're all used to cannabis, cocaine, heroin. There's the one they call crack, which is the pure type of heroin. They are all very addictive. And because they work on the brain, they disorganize the electrons in the brain. And that is when people, in most cases, they fall spiral into depression. And then it blows up and becomes something unmanageable. Some of them do hear voices because once that thing is disorganized, the way the brain is wired, once it's disorganized, anything could happen. So majority of them do hear voices. And cannabis for me, I've had that discussion with some black mental health patients who are from Africa. And I told them that cannabis in Africa, you can grow it like a flower in front of your house. Cannabis here has to be nurtured. It has to be grown in a particular way, lights. They have to create something similar to a tropical environment before they can grow. And most of it have been genetically modified. So I think because our gene cannot recognize that, it's like when we talk about malaria and somebody from Europe, the body doesn't recognize malaria. And that's why a mosquito bite can kill a European, but cannot kill an African. So I always tell them, I believe the cannabis sold here, our body, the African body, doesn't see it as a recreational drug, and that is why it affects us more than it affects those who are smoking it here. Because genetically, our own body can recognize that one, that maybe bees have pollinated them, that are natural, what we call the organic one. So, yeah. So the most common mental health throughout the world is depression. And what causes it in most cases, I just listed some of them. Childhood experience of trauma, traumatic life events, sexual abuse, divorce, kidnapping, robbery, accidents, loss of jobs, migration, war, and famine. Where you see those people coming through the English Channel, majority of them end up with us because of the trauma they went through, what they suffered in Libya, before moving to Greece, before they get to Italy, before getting to France. So the trauma that is locked in their brain make them to become depressed. And the story they've told them is once you get here, the streets are paved in gold. And when the government tell them, you be in that hotel and we'll give you 20 pounds per week, then where is the gold that these people have promised? So, and family history of mental health problem, physical health problems such as cancer, diabetes, hormonal changes in women. That's another one that Africa is still not recognizing. Most African women still don't believe that hormonal changes could affect their mood. And it does, because of the way our body reacts to events. So when you notice those changes, you seek help, talk to someone, talk to your GP. They will refer you to people who, it's just some psychological help, telling you how to manage it, do this, do that, but we are still far, far behind in that, because we believe, how do I go to another man and tell them I'm feeling like this because of some changes in my body system? So, yeah. Then recreational drugs and alcohol, cannabis, cocaine, heroin, tramadol, LSD, and spice. Like I said, there are so many of them in the market now. And unfortunately, back home, it's taking over the life of our youths, especially most African countries. There was a documentary on Gabon where young boys would just lie on the street after taking excessive number of tramadol. In Nigeria, it's the same thing. Most pain relief drugs are now being used as a form of stimulant by our youths. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the symptoms of depression. Feeling sad regularly, anxious or feeling empty, feeling hopeless, constantly feeling irritable, frustrated or restless, feelings of guilt, low levels of energy, loss of interest in things you usually enjoy doing. Those are the things that when you go to a mental health nurse or a consultant, those are the things they first ask you. What do you enjoy doing? And if you say, oh, I enjoy watching football, are you still doing it? No, I can't be bothered. They know that something is wrong somewhere. And then difficulty sleeping, concentration problem, and remembering or making decisions. Sometimes we just say, oh, I'm going to do that later. Or I can't remember talking about that. So, and changes in appetite, unplanned weight changes. I just put that YouTube program, thing there. It captures what depression is about. He said, I have a black dog. His name is depression. And then he said, whenever I go, it comes until depression takes over his life. Then one day he told himself, I'm not going to let this black dog determine my life. Then he took control. So taking control is one of the main things that we always try to motivate people to do. It's difficult, but people will have to take control. If you have time, you can watch it. It's about 4 minutes, but it captures depression, what it does to the life of people. So the next one. Now, I just try to capture some of those things that we discuss with our patients when they come through the door on managing our own mental health. One of the first things is express your feelings. Be open about how you are feeling to people who are close to you. Speak with your spiritual leaders and elders. When we express our feelings, it helps relieve stress. You see, one thing we've lost as Africans is that essence of community. You know, when I was growing up, every evening, every man in the village comes to a place, they drink palm wine and tell stories. That is where you bring this story. You have to come and discuss that what your wife is doing for you at home. And they will tell you, oh, it happened to so, he will tell you what to do. So they discuss all their issues in that community. And solutions are preferred within that system. But here, even the husband and the wife sometimes didn't see each other, probably until maybe once in a week when the two of them are off. Because I could remember myself, it's happening to me when I'm on the ward. I don't like night shift. So my wife works nights, I work days. So whenever I see her, I just greet her in our local language, and then she starts laughing because we've not seen each other for about 4 days. Before she comes, I'm gone. And before I come back home, she's at work. So we've lost those community spirit. We might not know the essence of it, but I can tell you it's so good. And that is why I'm really happy our youth are going to learn 1 or 2 things from the elders. This is a church. I was happy when I see youths coming here to lead praise worship because you know what the internet has done to families. It has broken the family apart. Children prefer to play game than to talk to their parents. So, and then I said the church must be a place of safety in times of crisis. And as Apostle Paul wrote in the book of Galatians, bear one another's burden and so fulfill the law of Christ. Sometimes our spirit could lead us into saying, this is what I want. When I was a student in Bradford, there was the story of a patient who went to the ward manager and said, I want my pastor and the elders of our church to come and pray for me. They just said, for what? He said, I think that's what I want because the Bible says, is any of you sick? Let him call on the elders to pray for him. James 5:14-15. And the staff were trying to push her back. The manager said, if that is what you want, we will facilitate it. And then they phoned the pastor. The pastor brought elders to pray for her. She's from Zimbabwe. And they were surprised at her recovery. She recovered faster than every other person on that ward. That is faith. Our faith can carry her to that level. And it came from her conviction that if my elders in my church pray for me, I think I'm going to get better. So if we can do that, fine. But if not, let us speak to our elders, the leaders of our churches, that this is what I'm going through. Can you join me in prayer? And we should find a way to seek a good work-life balance. We are always thinking of how we are going to build homes in Africa, how we are going to sustain our children here. Probably, like me, you are the only person that is abroad in the whole family, and you have about 12 or 25 siblings that needed money to go to school. So some of us jump from one work to another. So no time for us to rest. Our body is recording it, and sometimes it manifests itself in terms of anxiety and depression. To some people, they will just crash. And that is why we burn out easily. You can see, to an average European, after working for 2 or 3 months, they are going on holiday. Africans, when we say we go on holiday, we go to Nigeria, especially us Nigerians, to finish our house. That is not holiday. Because we are supervising a project. You even make more noise in Nigeria than here. Because the bricklayer will not come on time, the person who is supplying sand will cause problem. So you are actually actively working when you say you are on holiday. So we need to find time to do things, and things that we think we enjoy. Just create time for us to do it. Then the next one I said, connect with others. Make time for association. Join groups. Go on family outing days. Visit friends. Connect with people outside your immediate circle. Our culture and our religion back up community spirit. In the letter of Apostle Paul to the Philippians, he enjoined them to look out for one another. In Philippians 2, verse 4 and 5, do not look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. The issue of just picking up a phone and calling somebody that you've not seen for. If people don't come to church service, I could remember in those days when I was a member of the Redeemed Church in Nigeria, we have a group of people that will phone and say, why did we see you in church today, this and that. And we have a series of house fellowships. So those who did miss the church service can go to the house fellowship, so that people will say, we've seen him because the pastor was there, I didn't see brother, so. So let that attitude continue. It's not by visiting each other, but the phone is very handy. We can talk to each other, and the essence of talking to people. I've had instances where I phoned people and say, oh my God, your phone came at the right time. I was so depressed, my mood was so low, and then we discussed issues, and then we were able to provide some solutions. And then stay positive and value yourself. We need to learn to let go, to forgive and to forget. And we need to look for role models, people that we can look up to and follow their lifestyle. Reflecting on what we did well, learning from our mistake, and learning to move on. Sometimes as parents, there was a day my daughter was telling me, if you decide to bring us up the way you are brought up in Nigeria, I think there's going to be trouble. I said, what do you mean? Parenting is parenting. It's a universal thing. It has never, she said, it has changed. You are in Europe now. And on reflection, I know she was making a point. But as an African man, I don't want to show weakness. I said, what the hell are you talking about? Whatever I say here is a law. But I know deep inside me, it can't happen. My dad, you dare not look him in the face. Anything that comes out of my father's mouth is a decree, not even a law. You can discuss a law, you can argue, but it's a decree. If he says you are not going to, when I told my children I didn't go on holiday until I left university, they said, but that is child abuse. I said, to you it is child abuse. To me, my father is trying to tell me that I am in control. I said, because he will send money to me in Ibadan. He's in the village. I said, if you want me to pay your school fees, immediately the school closes on Friday, meet me on the farm. But here I am today. Most of what I'm able to do in life was because of that foundation. Because of what he was able to instill in me. Like my children, I was thinking, can't this man just die so that I have some peace? But when I grew up, we became the best of friends. Because I could see he was trying to chart a course for me. And unfortunately for me, I was left-handed. So everybody in the community was beating me. How can you be left-handed? It felt it's a taboo. So he now took it upon himself to explain to people, leave him alone. They say, oh, he can't become a king. He said, it's not from a royal family. Leave him alone. And for that decision, I'm always grateful to him. I believe in my own little way, I was a very brilliant student. And I always believe it was because they didn't force me to use the right hand, because that was the most developed part of my body, my left side. So anything I do is through my left. Or the only thing I don't do is I don't use my left hand to eat. And that took them about 8 years to train me to use my right hand to eat. Because in Africa, and then if my father wants to give me my school fees, if I stretch out my left hand, he will slap me and say, you are not paying school fees. They will send you home before I give you that money back for just stretching out my. So let's learn to let go and have role models in life. Like my dad was a very good role model for me. He's always well dressed. So when I went to go to work now, people ask me, you don't dress like somebody who is coming to work in mental age, you just dress as if you are. I said, yes, my dad is a tailor. My grandfather is a tailor. So those are my role models. I like looking good because it gives me satisfaction. And I can tell you, me, myself, I went through depression. I used to be a banker back home. Bank manager with a driver and about 4 cars. Then I came here, there was nothing. But thank God, I met Reverend Charles, who was able to tell me his own story. And that calmed me down. Say, if he is still alive, I'm going to face this thing head on. And that motivated me. When I tell people I used to work on the Jeremy Kai show, they say, Jeremy Kai. When my people will say, when everything you know how to eat has finished, you will eat what you don't want to eat. And that is why one of my friends will say, if there is no food again in Saudi Arabia, the chief imam will eat dog. So, when I came here, came with a lot of hope and aspirations, and everything just crashed down. I became depressed, lost so much weight, that when people come from Nigeria, I hide myself. I don't want them to see me. Because they will say, look at bank manager. We told him not to come. But you see, like I said, connecting with people. There's somebody I helped to come here as a student. Then he phoned me. He called me. My boss is older than me, but he was a junior staff. He said, you'll be a very good mental health nurse. Go and study mental health nursing. I said, my daughter is in college, and I will go to college, be in the same class with my daughter. And children here are so rude. I said, no. He said, don't look at them. Just face what you are there to do. And yeah, he said something in our language that when you get to the market, you concentrate on what you are in the market to buy, because the market will always be noisy. Don't listen to the noise, face what you are. And here I am today. I went to university at the age of 49 and graduated. And within a limited time, I've been able to, I've enjoyed the job. I've been able to contribute my own little quota to my knowledge to how people, especially people of African background, are treated within the mental health system. And then I said, find purpose and meaning in life. Take good care of your physical health. Just go to, and fortunately now, pharmacies everywhere, they do physical health monitoring. You can check your BP. Because as Africans, that is a common disease among Africans. Let's try and do that. Let's eat when we are supposed to eat. Let's be physical, exercise, go for walk, and then finding purpose and meaning in life. Talk to your children, help them with their homework, tell them stories. Like I'm a very, very good, I know my language inside out, but my children don't speak our language. So that is the challenge I've thrown to myself now, that these children, I must teach them this language. I used to work as an interpreter for the NHS because of how good I was in my local language, but my children don't speak it. So that is a challenge I'm giving myself, that I need to teach them not only the culture, but the language. Then learn new skills. Set new goals and targets for yourself. In the book of Joshua 14:12, Caleb was 85 years old. And she said, give me that mountain. Now you said the Anakims are. Because the Anakims they were giants that have taken over the land that God promised them. So Joshua, even at 85, Caleb still wanted to go to war. He was still challenging himself. So let's challenge ourselves, a new way of cooking, seek things that can engage your brain and engage with people. And then the last slide is where we can get support within the mental health service. You see, there are like all those symptoms we mentioned. Once you just suspect something is not right, especially with our children, because when they are growing up, there are some specific key things we call developmental stages of life. You should know that, my child, when she comes from school, she will always say, good afternoon to me. Or when she comes, she drops her bag here, throw her shoes everywhere, and go to her room. Once those things are not more there, we should be observing that something is not right. What they used to do before, what they enjoy, once they start spending 12, 14 hours under the duvet, we should be concerned. And when we are concerned, sometimes it might have gone far before we actually notice it. And that is why we shouldn't take the law into our own hand. We shouldn't take rash decisions that could lead to other things. Like one of my friends who happened to know that family in Gotin said the boy actually planted cannabis in the family home. So the mom saw it, and as an African mother who believes she can take authority over his family, threw the cannabis away. And that is what agitated the child and attacked all of them. So, there is the last slide, please, on the useful support network. We have an helpline, or what we call a crisis line in Greater Manchester Mental Health. This line was actually used to help those people involved in the arena bombing. But because of the number of people calling in, saying, I want support for this, they decided to keep it. So it's actually for the whole of Manchester. So if you think something is not right, and you don't want to confront your child or your family member, if you call this crisis line, they will direct you to where you can get help. Also, we have last month, the NHS added mental health to the 111 helpline. If you call that line and select the mental health option, I think it's option 2, they will link you up with a mental health person that works in your area. And there are so many organizations in the UK. Mind is a mental health charity that supports people with mental health. If you are struggling, if you want more information about anything, if you phone them, they will give you all the information and support you need. Then Samaritans UK and MenCap They are all mental health charities. Age UK, that is for old people. People, if you suspect somebody is having dementia, and unfortunately, dementia is cutting across age now. We have people 40, 45 now developing dementia. Then there's the Domestic Violence and Abuse Network, also in Manchester here. We have in every mental health team now in the community, we always have at least one person who is a specialist on domestic violence. And we have the adult and children social care. Because if we have children that are still under 19 and we are concerned about them, you have to involve the social services. But most of us from Africa are always afraid that they will take the children away from us and say, hey, you are not managing these children very well. We are taking them into care. I can conveniently say that is changing because the system has realized that children do better in an environment that they actually understand and where they think they can find role model. Because most foster parents are doing it for money. So if the child says, I want to climb on top of the tallest building in Manchester and jump down, once you think it's safe, that's okay. But as a parent, you will say, I think you need to go to Africa. By the time, so those are the things that they are trying to do now by making sure that they don't take children away from their parents. The police, you can call them on 101. Or now they grade those calls and say, oh, that is not too risky. But at least let them have a record that you've made that call. Because those are things that when things go out of hand, they will use against you. Say, why didn't you call the police? I told them, but they said it's not too risky. We have what we call drop-in centers. There's a mustard tree very close to you here. Every Thursday, police, social service, mental health, they are always there. You can go there, talk to them about anything. If they cannot provide solution, they will refer you to the appropriate place. Then there is a charity called the African and Caribbean Mental Health Services. So I've brought their booklet. So I will drop it with the church. Anybody can contact them. Why it is good is because of their own background as Africans and Caribbeans. So they understand us. They know where we are coming from. They are part of us. So they provide services free of charge to people from Africa and Caribbean background. Also, we have the children and adolescent mental health services. You can't go straight to them. But if you call the crisis line and they know that the child is under 18, they will refer you to CAMS. Because when you go to some of our eating disorder units, you see a lot of children in mental health. We have so many young people. And it's mostly about self-harm and suicidal ideations. I don't know what is causing it, but the majority of them, I just don't want to be here. I don't want to be here again, this and that. So those are places where we can get help. So I'm going to leave some of the other places where there is one we call the recovery line. There are so many of them, so I'm going to leave them with the pastor so that probably put it on the notice board, and then you can people can look at them. I think this, because they just launched the 111, there is also a poster about it that they are asking us to give out so that people will know that there is a mental health helpline apart from the one that is general for Manchester. So that is it. I still believe, like I said, as an African, we need to get our work-life balance right, especially here, so that we'll be able to be part of our children's life. Looking for money is good, but what is the essence of money when you've lost those people you are actually working for? When you've lost those people you are working for to inherit your wealth, to carry on the family name. So let us try and know when to apply the brake and say, something is not right here, I've got to do something. We need to reflect, we need to look back. And like I said, mental health is not peculiar to any race. It can affect anybody. For instance, schizophrenia, science has not been able to say this is what causes it. It just comes. So I'm appealing to us as parents and youths, please, if your friends tell you, oh, if you take this thing, it will make you powerful. It will make you feel better. Addiction, it's something that is dangerous. Once you are hooked, it is difficult to get off it. It's just like smoking. By the time you are taking the second line of cocaine, you are hooked for life. The best thing is not to do it. And if the pressure is too much, talk to your parents. You know, they fear African parents in schools. I'm a school governor. When you see an African parent, they come there like a mad lion. Say, who is the teacher that is disturbing the life of my... They know we don't believe in some laws. We will take the laws into our hand and create a scene. So they always listen to us. So tell your parents, something is happening in school. They will go there and fight for you. So feel free. And like I said, open up, talk to your pastors, and ask the Holy Spirit to guide you and be part of your life. Thank you.
I'm sorry, church. I know time is far gone. We're going to do it today as if it's First Sunday, man. Mr. Sekoni, I told you we're going to take some questions. I'm hoping that there will be people that will ask questions. If you have any question you want to ask, for me, I want to ask one. I know you mentioned it, but if you can just help us. If you're in a family or in a house with a child that is like withdrawn, at one point, should you really get concerned? You understand? Because sometimes teenagers go through things and they don't want to, then after that they stop. So at what point do you really say, I have to call the mental health?
Like I said, there are those things we class as activities of daily living. Your child, whether they, like at least my children, they will always want to have their breakfast. They will always come downstairs to do one or two things before going back to their rooms. And then once you notice that probably the school, their progress in school is being affected, that is that is a trigger that something is not right. And once they stop doing those things that you yourself know they enjoy doing, that is another trigger. Like some of them, they like watching cartoons, they like watching some particular programs on TV, but they stop doing that. Even when you try to prompt them that, they are not doing your program, I can't be bothered. Then you should be thinking something is setting in. But like you said, sometimes, like I said about exam period, they could become withdrawn because they know it is their future and they will be anxious about it. But when you notice those things that they used to do before and they are backing away from it, things that they enjoyed before, they no more enjoy it. Friends that they used to talk to, they no more talk to them. Oh, they are so eager to go to church, they don't want to go again. It's like you are forcing them to go. Those are little things. And then you just have to speak to them. And once you think the answer you are getting is not satisfactory, then you seek help. In most cases, when they do the assessment, if they think it's just psychology, they just say, we are going to refer them to psychology. And as parents, this now, the NHS is empowering parents to be part of the program process. You can reject some things. If they say, we are going to do ABC, you can tell them, no, I don't want this. I prefer this. So it's for us to know the triggers, know how our children behave. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And if we think they are abandoning those things we think are their strengths, then something is not right. Then we need to seek help. If you speak with the crisis line, they put you through to a psychologist who will just tell you, do A, B, C, D, and if you are concerned again, come back to us.
Thank you. Has anyone got a question? Okay.
Welcome, Mr. Sekoni.
Thank you.
And thank you for the lecture. I want to ask, you mentioned about hormonal, when you are having hormonal problems, like it can cause a lot of things. I know for both women and men, especially when you go older, you have hormonal problems you can cause, and even for the young ones, especially when you notice maybe your child is having hormonal changes, like they become erratic in their behavior. So how do you handle that?
Most of the therapy for hormonal changes for children is usually done through psychology. They don't want to expose them to medication that will affect them later in life, because some medication, especially in psychiatry, can cause people not to have children because of the strength of the medication. So in most cases, it is usually done through psychology. They would try and teach them techniques to distract themselves, techniques they can use when they are feeling the way they are feeling. But in some cases, when psychology doesn't work, then they resort to some mild antidepressant to calm them down. But for like our team, the first line of action is usually psychology, because we believe talking to them, talking therapies could help them, because there will always be a trigger. There will always be something in their body that will trigger that behavior. And if they can identify it, then they could be able to teach them how to manage it.
Thank you, sir. I just have this question that I need you to talk about. It's a two-in-one question, actually. I want to know the boundary between mental illness and spiritual problem. And if someone is attacked spiritually, can he be cured medically? That's one aspect of the question.
Okay.
So the second one has to do with the food. Because it's about the planting. Some of the things that we plant in Africa, they are organic. And some of the things that we eat here, most times, even the fruit and all that, we see that so I want to know, does it affect, our, people from Africa?
Yeah, I can't, let me start from the spiritual. Science and spirituality, they don't see eye to eye. Scientists don't believe there is anything like spirituality. But I can tell you, within the NHS now, they are coming to realize that people do operate in the spiritual. Every trust now have a spiritual department where you have an imam, a rabbi, and a priest. And why are they doing that? Because they've seen that spirituality sometimes work for some people, because it's all about faith. And like the story of Peter in the Bible, when he saw Jesus walking on water, he wanted to try it, but he was drowning. And Jesus said, it's because your faith is. So it's faith that I think you have to have that internal conviction that this is spiritual, and I'm going to deal with it in a spiritual way. But science is coming to realize that there is a power, there's something called a spiritual power. If they don't, they won't employ imams and rabbis and reverends to come and work with us. And on every of our ward, we always have a box where all religious books are kept. We call it the faith room. So if you are a Christian, you can go there and pray. If you are Muslim, you can go there and pray. Hindu, anything you are, you can go there and pray, because they've realized the fact that spirituality is actually part of life. And on the other one about food, like I said, even the one I said about cannabis, there's no scientific proof. But the number of African boys I see coming through the door with drug-induced psychosis, and the drug is cannabis, make me feel the one they are smoking here doesn't work well in an African body. The food, when you look at history, especially when you read the history of South Africa, you know, when the white men discovered South Africa, the people of South Africa were growing guinea corn, and the white man introduces maize. I think the belief was that over generation, they will become weak. So food can affect us, but I don't think it's something that will happen now. It happens maybe later in life. When you go to a place like Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia, you see young children of 4 having gray hair all over their head. Scientifically, that is a sign that there has been famine in that community, probably 2 or 3 generations before. So before we start to see the effect of food, probably maybe our grandchildren. But there's no scientific evidence to show that it can, because most of them are genetically modified. Because anytime I go to the market and I buy some vegetables, I say, why are caterpillars not eating any part of this thing? Because in Africa, you can't buy a full vegetable without the caterpillar eating some of it. So, and that is why sometimes we develop some diseases here that are that are strange in Africa. For instance, tuberculosis was not an African disease because we don't mine coal. So tuberculosis came because of coal mining. But because people travel all over the world, tuberculosis is found everywhere now. So on food, I think it's going to be maybe some generations down the line, if it is going to affect us at all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sekoni.
You're welcome.
For the lectures, yeah. My question is a bit similar to what my brother just asked. And the question is in regard to the one of the sub topics for mental health. You talked about the visuals, like when the child might start saying things and all that. Is there any record or medicine from the NHS that could have stopped such kind of issues?
When we see that this type of psychosis is the visual type, there are a series of questions they will ask the person. Because sometimes some people actually know the person they are seeing. It might be in the spirit, you know what I'm doing, you understand me, but they will give it a name. Oh, it's Tunde. He's always coming at 11 p.m. and talking to me. So if those are the things that those are the first line of questioning. Can they give it a name? Is it a random person? Does it have a specific time it comes? When he wants to go away, what do you say to him or her? And then if we are able to work around that, then that gives us the idea of whether it is going to be psychology or medication. But there are series of medication used in psychiatry to manage such things, because it's like Madam said, is in the brain, is in the mind. So that is what the medication is trying to do. Correct those impulses that are causing them to see what others are not seeing. But there are loads of medication that people could use. The only thing is, every medication has side effects. So there are instances of people, if you are young, there are some medication you must not take in psychiatry. If you are still of childbearing age, there are some medication you must not take. For instance, I don't know whether you've read about this story behind Epilim. Young women were given Epilim to control their epilepsy or help their mood. But when they start having children, all the children were severely autistic. So on the pack now, there is a picture of a pregnant woman. Say it must not be given to women or childbearing age. So those are specific things you have to think of the side effects. If somebody is pregnant and they are seeing something like that, we just try to, or probably put them in where we can manage it in another way instead of using medication. Because we don't want her to take a medication that will then affect the child when the child is born. Thank you. Okay. So there are some questions here. Mass shooting in USA, the first one. Bullying at school is affecting my child. The school is canceling, but still being in the environment is making him more depressed. Will you recommend removing from the environment totally, e.g., homeschool? It's two-faced. Children, they are still growing. They need to interact with people. They need to mix with people. They need to know how to behave in an environment where there are others. So that is the essence of schooling, to meet people, to interact. Otherwise, we can learn from home. But school helps you to build your confidence, the confidence to speak in front of people, the confidence, even the confidence to be able to talk to women. Most of it we learn it in school because our parents don't normally teach us such things. I don't know now, but when I was growing up, I was made to believe that talking to a woman is extremely dangerous. I don't know where my father got it from. So I always run away when I see women. So, but homeschool is okay, but for me, I think it's very, very difficult as a parent. Because the school will support you, they will send all their things to you at home. But if you are good in science, will you be very good in maths? If you are good in maths and science, are you good in geography? If you are good in all those ones, are you good in language? Because when my children bring their English assignment home, it's totally different from Mr. Bako is a trader that I learned back home in Nigeria. So I was lost. I said, I can't see anything like our own. We just read the comprehension. Like Mr. Giwa is a trader. He has a shop in Dauda's village. And then we answer the question. But here, they will have to ask them to apply it. So you have to probably have the background of education here before you can say you are withdrawing. But you can propose to the school. But my dad used to say, when you leave the tropical forest and run into a mangrove forest, you are still in a forest. So if you are withdrawing your child from a school because he's being bullied, there are bullies in other schools also. So it's a precarious situation. One needs to balance it and see. But if you think the child is getting the necessary support at the current school, just leave them there. Like I said, I'm a school governor in one of our local schools here. We meet things like this, and we always encourage the school to provide support and put safeguards in place to protect the child from further bullying. And then the second one, the mass shooting in the US, stabbing in the UK, has been linked to mental health. If my child is showing violent sign, it's a taboo to do what? To call for outside intervention. How will you approach this in the home? Yeah, like I said, that is the African approach. But our people also say your sore hand, your problematic hand, you don't put it inside your clothes. You have to bring it out for people to see. But because we always feel, oh my God, it's going to be stigma, we wait until it gets out of hand. And I can assure you, once you think this is beyond me, seek intervention. The police are trained these days to work on things like that, mental health. And sometimes we do go on outreach with policemen. When we too felt we can encounter trouble where we are going, we request for protection from the police. So I think if that is happening, the child is becoming violent, you just have to seek support. Start from the social services, and then they will be able to signpost you to where you can get the support. And you see, those mass shooting, especially the one in the US, sometimes I take it with a pinch of salt when they say it's related to mental health. Children learn a lot by copying what others are doing. And in America, carrying a gun is like buying bread or milk or children having a phone. So, but when the Republicans are in power, they always link it to mental health because they believe it's a vote-winning argument. Oh, they are coming to take your gun. And sometimes you sit down and say, America is said to be a Christian nation. What are they doing with gun? And you can see in some homes, AK-47, submachine guns, 3 or 4, 14-year-old child. I've never seen a gun in my life apart from those dang guns that our fathers used to hunt rats in Africa. And I don't want to see one. I've seen police carry them. I always tell people I don't want to touch a gun. But that is their culture. So majority of them are linked to mental health. And that is another problem, that when a child is showing some signs of deviating from the culture and norms acceptable to the society, we need to be concerned. And then, medication make me into a zombie. Medication makes me fat. Medication makes me infertile. Yeah, those are facts. Like I said, some antipsychotics could lead to people having problems later in life when they want to have children. And most psychiatric medication make people gain weight. And that is why, in some instances, some GP will recommend that their patient go and register at a GP, which will be paid for by the NHS, because most of the medication. And why it makes people gain weight, there is an hormone in our body called the leptin. That is the hormone that tells us the amount of food we have eaten is okay. That's why you say, oh, I'm all right, I'm full, I don't want anything again. So when you take some antipsychotics, there are some we call the old generation antipsychotics, those that, like haloperidol, the old generation antipsychotics are fond of doing this. So they attack the leptin, suppress it, and then people start eating excessively. Before you know it, they gain weight. So then the new generation antipsychotics now, some of them have other side effects, but not weight gain. Like I'm working with one of my patients, weaning him off the old generation antipsychotics that is on and putting him on a new one that I would think will not make, because it just keeps ballooning. And he said it's affecting his confidence. He doesn't want to go out again because of the size of his body. And yeah, medication makes me into a zombie. Well, like I said, some of the medication are so strong that when taken, it affects people's, it just makes them feel so sedated. But there are some other medication that will be prescribed, and that is the problem with medication. When you have a side effect, another medication will be prescribed to manage that side effect. So before you know it, you have so many medication at the same time. And yeah, I think infertility, yes, it could affect it. I've just told you about one that is causing children to become autistic. And if it's taking for a very long time, when people want to start having children, you have to work with your psychiatrist and your mental health team. They know how to help you reduce those medications so that along the line, and they give you a timeline that when we stop this thing, you need 6 months before you start trying for children. So that's, it can affect fertility. It can affect men also, creating erection problem. Most of our patients are actually being helped with erectional dysfunction, because that most antipsychotics causes erectile dysfunction. It's one of the side effects. That's it. Thank you very much. Oh, is there another one? The one in blue.
Yes, sir. It's among the audience. Good day, sir. I'll try to be very brief.
Okay.
One common issue with mental health and the challenge a lot of people have is the stigma that goes with reporting. A lot of mental issues are mild cases that are not actually easily noticed by people who are not trained or informed. Reporting such cases sometimes comes with a lashback at the end of the day, like with work and suitability to fit into some competencies. As somebody who works in that field, what advice will you give people to handle situations like that where you're choosing between probably helping yourself or your kid or a word and the consequences that is perceived might come with it in the future?
Yeah, thank you. What I know about employment law in this country is that you must not be discriminated against. You know the Equality Act, they have what they call 9 protected characteristics. And under no condition must somebody be discriminated against under those characteristics. One of them is based on your health. I think if that happens, you can take the company to an employment tribunal for discrimination based on the fact that you disclosed that you have mental health issue. What usually causes problem is if they find out themselves later. Maybe they call your GP and they've given you a form to fill. Have you got any health issue that we need to know? And you said no. And then your GP said, in 2004, he had some mild depression. He was treated for mild depression and he had anxiety and all those things. And then they will say, you are not being honest. But if you go for an interview, you pass the interview and you are offered a job, and then down the line, they say, no. Once you've been honest at the beginning, but it's not straightforward, especially with some jobs. Like there are some jobs that they believe is highly risky, and they deal with a lot of confidential things. Like if you want to work with MI6 now, or the intelligence services, those are things they dig into. Or joining the military, somebody who has a past mental health history, they won't want to say, we can trust him with a gun. But in every other job, if you are discriminated against, you have the right to fight it. So, and the stigma, we are always afraid of it. And what do? Mental health is mental health. It's a form of health issue, health concern. And the more we take it as part of life, the better for us, especially we Africans. The first thing we always think of is the stigma, not the health of the person who is suffering. So we need to put that one at the back and say, let's work on this. And the society is, even in Africa, is becoming more acceptable of it. I could remember when my auntie, but it was when I studied mental health that I knew she had bipolar. But everybody was, this is something, this is spiritual. They said it was because she attended her dad's funeral because they told her not to go. But now, when we see it, we are able to offer support. And anytime I'm in Nigeria, I go to churches like this to talk to them about mental health, to allay their fears about the stigma that goes with it, that is another form of illness, like somebody having cancer, somebody having diabetes. But because of the history and the fact that Africa doesn't know how to manage it for a very long time, that is why the stigma is still there. Yeah. The blue one, what causes mental illness or disorder?
The last one. Committal. I'm not really sure.
Commitment or committer? Can I commit myself or do self-medication? You can, commitment is when you say, okay, I think I can manage this myself. But what we usually do in mental health is when people want to do self-medication, there is a series of training that we do for them, especially if somebody is admitted onto the ward. We first start by giving them the medication in packets, maybe for 1 week, and then we check every day and mark it off that they have taken it. But you know, somebody who doesn't want to take their medication could take it out of the and then hide it under their bed or flush it down the toilet. But as we are doing that, we are also monitoring their presentation. As something changed, the way they used to talk before, the way they used to do things, then if we see that they are doing very well, then we move it to checking every other day. Then we move it to checking every week. And by the time they are being discharged, we always do maybe check it every 2 weeks or check it once a month that they are taking their medication. Some people are very, very good at it and say, can you put it in dosette boxes for me? So that the one they are going to take in the morning, all they need is just punch that hole and take out the medication. So some people will prefer that, which is very straightforward because you know that what the pharmacist put there is for Monday morning, this is for the afternoon, and this is for the night. So it depends on the individual, but we always work with them before agreeing to self-medication, because we've had instances of people being discharged with medication and getting home and taking a massive overdose because they felt, I've been telling you people I don't want to live again. Why are you disturbing me? And some people have a way of masking their mental health. They will cooperate with you on the ward because they want to go home and kill themselves. So that's why we are always very careful in saying, yes, let's allow this person to self-medicate, especially with strong antipsychotics, because of the danger involved in taking an overdose of it.
I just wanted to ask, what's the difference between stress and anxiety?
Yeah, anxiety is, like I said, all of us go through anxiety. You want to get married, especially in the UK, you go to Oldham, ask them the cost of a hall, and they said 5,800. And you look at it and say, what? Where will I get that money? That is a form of anxiety. Like I said, when your child is writing an exam, or child going to university, you are running out of money. Those are all anxieties, but good anxieties. But when anxiety becomes a problem, it's when it stops you from doing what you can do. When you see some mom find it difficult to actually cook for their children because they are so anxious, they don't know what to do, then they stop going to church, they stop having a bath. Oh, the people say, the clothes you are wearing, he said, no, it's all right, I'm okay like that. Because it is affecting the way they see life. And stress usually comes when, in most cases, when we overwork ourselves, when we overthink things, when we think, oh my God, the whole world is against me, when we experience what we call burnout, especially those of us from Africa that probably are building a home in Africa, we have a mortgage here, and our child is in university. So it puts so much pressure on us that people can see it externally, that this person is actually struggling with their life. So it becomes, some of the symptoms are like you just having constant headache. Some people just sleep, and then at work, you're at your table, you are just about 5 to 6 kilometers away. You are not where you are supposed to be. So it affects your productivity. People will see it at work. People will see it at home. You are not curious. You are not keen about cooking. You are not keen about eating because you feel under so much pressure. So that's the main difference. But stress could also lead eventually to anxiety.
Just one more question. What do you believe causes dementia?
How do I best describe it? You know, in where I come from, in Yoruba land, we have what those people we call traditional rulers. I just want to use that as an hypothetical example. You know, when you become a king, they'll give you this massive white horse tail as your instrument of office. And our people will always pray for the king that horse tail will degenerate and become like a needle because of the longevity of that person on the throne. Our brain, from the first day we were born, start working. And like every other product, like your car, you know, when we were young, when you buy a second car, especially in Africa, you know you are buying trouble because in those days they use carburetor. So everybody is always talking about carburetor because that's the engine room of the car. But now it is something else. What do they call it? The brain box. So that is our brain. It's just like most of the things we buy at Argos depreciate as we grow old. And sometimes the pressure we put on the brain when we are growing up manifests itself when we grow old. And that is why, in most cases, they encourage people to not stop reading, not stop engaging with people, not stop associating with people. Because loneliness will tax your brain. Say, why am I here? Like I told you, some of us got here, and what we met on the ground shocked the life out of us. So if we don't turn it around, there is a place in our brain, the hard drive, which is recording it. So, and some people, when they start losing their memory, it comes from the back because the brain is in about 4 parts. Some is the frontal lobe, and that is why you see some people saying they can remember what happened 5 minutes ago, but they cannot remember what happened last year. But you see some people, they can remember everything that happened in 1945, but they cannot remember where they are. We have some patients, when their children come, they'll say, have I met you before? So it is a degenerative disease, and it comes with age. But of recent, I think there are so many scientific research being done now to find out why people are developing dementia at 45, 50. Because it's usually regarded as an over 65 disease. And when I first saw it, I was so scared because of the way they behave. In dementia, we have what we call the sundown. Once the sun is going down, the agitation comes up. And science has not been able to actually explain that one also. So from 3 p.m., if you work on a dementia ward, we always want to put specific patients under watch because that is when they become uncontrollable. But it's because our brain degenerates with time. It shrinks.
Thank you, Mr. Sekoni. Thank you so much.